Hey, 𝗟𝗶𝗱𝗃𝗀𝗃 here. If you're looking to build a $1 million business in the federal market, build a government contracting business, then this video is for you and many others like it. This is day 9 of 365 days. I'm going to record 365 videos showing me following the process I've been teaching for 8 years on how to become a government contractor, how to have success. I teach that it's a process, not a secret. And when you understand that, you're able to have success. And so this is day 9, really my second week. And the first week since January 1st of building out 𝗟𝗟𝗺𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃, which is this new GovCon business I'm doing, that's all been about trying to identify what do I sell and who's buying it and who is winning it already. So what other businesses are already winning what I want to win. I'll come back and revisit that more in a couple of weeks, but I got a good handle on it. The reason I start a business that way is, what's the point of forming a company, an LLC or whatever, if you don't know what you're selling, if you don't know who's buying it, right? So some basic things I like to get out of the way, and this is what I'm teaching. So today I'm going to cover down on what's my next step, and I'm probably going to head towards this forming an LLC, get ready, get registered in SAM, and I'll talk about that in a second. If you don't know who I am, my name is 𝗟𝗶𝗱𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀𝗃. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I'm co-founder of GovConinAbox.com. And I want to welcome you to my journey of building a company, 𝗟𝗟𝗺𝗃𝗀𝗃, from zero and nothing, no idea, to $1 million in revenue by the end of December 2025. So as I go along, it's not a training video. I'll happen to teach you stuff, but more I'm trying to journal, or I'm losing the word there, like journalize is what I keep wanting to say, but that's wrong. But I want to give you a passenger seat view of my journey to that $1 million thing. And the biggest lesson I really want to make sure people understand the whole journey is that even experienced people like me, we follow a process. We know what we're doing, but sometimes we hit a wall. Imagine we're going into a maze, and the maze is creating a government contracting business and getting it to $1 million in revenue. Sometimes I go down a path and I hit a wall. That's fine, right? When you know what you're doing and you know the process, you know the wall is a place for you to turn around. It's not a place for you to stop. And so if life gets tough, if building your business gets tough, just think of it like a maze going, well, it's not really tough. It's just a wall. That means I need to go turn around and go a different direction, because that's the right direction and this is the wrong direction. So I want you to see that even as experienced as I am, I have 20 plus years of experience. I've done this before. I've had 2 government contracting businesses after I got out of the Army, and for 8 years I've been teaching it, but I still, anytime you do something, you're still going to have some challenges. The experienced people, which kind of know what to do. And that's why I'm here for you in this journey, is I want you to learn from me. And if you're building your business at the same time, go ahead. I actually had somebody ask me, it's like, aren't you worried about somebody stealing your idea? You're laying out exactly how to build a business, selling what you're going to sell, and you're going to identify who I'm going to sell it to and things like that. And there's 2 things about that. First, I don't care. The pie is not the only thing. Sometimes we think of the pie and the pie is not big enough for all of us. First off, the pie is pretty darn big. And then the second thing is, you have to have this mentality of creating a second pie and a third pie. Don't worry about it. I have 36,000 connections. I have arguably the most amount of connections in the GovCon space than anybody. And I know hardly anybody, right? In the federal government, there's over 500,000 buyers. There's 360,000 small businesses in this market. When you think about 360,000, and each one of those companies have, let's say on average 5 people, right? 1 person or 50 people. So on average 5 people times 300,000, it's like 1.5 million people. I know 36,000 people. That's a fraction. And I have that mentality thinking there's room enough for all of us and we should be helping each other. So if somebody likes my idea and they want to duplicate it, go ahead. They're not going to have my experience, so I get to tell my own stories, and they're not going to knock on the doors I knock on. There's hundreds of thousands of doors, and none of us, even if we built 5 companies exactly doing the same, none of us are going to run into a problem. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Just stay focused, build what you want to build, and you'll succeed. Okay, so today I am going to move into the company formation part. First week it was about just making sure I knew what my idea was, and I knew who was spending that money in the federal agencies, and you can go back and binge watch that. I'm just coming on to tell you a couple of my next steps that I'll do between now and tomorrow, because it's fairly fast. But basically, I want to start forming a company and register in sam.gov, because that's the path I'm going to go for standing up a new business. And in this particular case, I want to do it a little bit more formal, so it's separate from me, right? So instead of doing like a sole proprietor or something like that, I'm going to create an LLC, an S corporation LLC, and I'm not going to do any of this stuff on my own. I'm going to pay somebody to do it. And I think it'll cost me somewhere around $200, maybe $300. That's worth it to me because my time is worth way more. Anytime I do anything, it should be around selling or delivering to the customer, but it should not be some of this other stuff that I could outsource. So what I mean by that is, I'll tell you how I'm going to form the company. You can form it many different ways. So if you're forming a company, choose whatever you want. I personally like a company called Harvard Business Services out of Delaware. I like the idea of creating my company in Delaware. I've been doing it for a while and I still like it. I tried once in the last 5 years or something. I created a Maryland-based company, and where I'm at, I was like, oh, that was horrible. It was like too much headache. But in Delaware, it just kind of all is really smooth. I'm not here to talk about the whys of it. I'm just telling you that's what I do. You can go research the heck out of it, or you can just do what I do. But I'm going to go to Harvard Business Services, and I'm not going to share my screen, but let me just see what the URL is. Harvard Business Services, because it's something else. Let me see what the URL is. It's Delaware Inc.com is what the website is. Delaware Inc.com. And so the reason I'm telling you is what I like about them is they'll do a company search in Delaware to make sure the name I want, 𝗟𝗂 is available. They'll make sure it's available with IRS. They'll go get me my EIN, which is if you don't know this, EIN, it's who cares what it stands for? It's basically the social security number for the company. So I have an SSN, a social security number for me. Companies have a social security number as well, but it's called an EIN. Both of those numbers are called tax IDs. That's all it is. If the government wants to get their taxes from my company or from my person, they use my social security number or my EIN. Again, I could care less what either one of them stand for. I mean, I could do it, but my brain's got other stuff in there. But I need to get an EIN. I want to form it as an S corporation. This company, Harvard Business Services, they just have a little checkbox. I fill a couple of things in, I send it, and they start checking. They communicate back with me. Actually, just really quickly, because this is live in a journey, another reason I kind of like them is this is the very first, if you could see that, HubZone Chamber of Commerce. The GovCon Chamber of Commerce, which I run now, was originally called the HubZone Chamber of Commerce. And I get this whole book back from these guys, Harvard Business Services. So there's a lot of companies out there that do this kind of thing. I just like these guys the best. I feel like their service is really good. They actually have a mail service, so I can send my mail there from like sam.gov. When I say, what's your mailing address, I'll put it there, and those guys will do whatever and send it back. So there's a couple of things I need to do if I want to get into sam.gov to start that registration process. And I will walk you through that just in case anybody wants to see it. But a couple of things I know I need. I need that EIN. I need an address for my company, and I need a bank account. I'm probably just going to use one of my own bank accounts for the moment. I don't need to start yet another bank account, so it's not the end of the world on that part. And then, as I progress and I start going after customers, I can then, like let's see, I see a particular traction. I'm getting traction. I can sign a contract with somebody. Well, I'm not going to get paid from them for like 30 or 60 days. I can run off and get another bank account now that I know I'm going to get paid, and I'll put it in. So I do things at the time they're needed, just in time, if you will. So the bank account I'll just use. The mailing address, I could use my home address, right? And that's totally fine for now. But there's a service called, I don't know what it's called, but it's like physical address. And it's what I have for GovCon in the box, which is awesome. And so I'll probably use something like that. I think it's $9. I'm okay spending some of that money. It's one of the things I say is, if you're going to start a government contracting business, you should be ready to spend a few $1,000s, right? I used to say, maybe you shouldn't, but you're literally trying to come in and build a company that's $100,000 or $1 million of revenue to start, and then bigger. Well, have some money to invest, and you don't have that money, then figure out how to get that stuff in play. If you're not ready for that, then just 1099. I don't want to go off on a sidetrack, but 1099 until you can make some money to save it aside. Otherwise, figure out what you're doing. I know that if I don't have these particular things in place, though, when I go to register for sam.gov, it'll cause me headaches, and DLA, the Defense Logistics Agency, or DOD will come back and like, I need to check your address and this kind of problem, that kind of problem. And so I just like to have these things lined up. So between now and tomorrow, I'm going to go into Harvard Business Services and start that process of finding the company. And then I'll line up, I'll write down somewhere here. Here's my bank account information. I'm going to need the routing number, the account number. And I think that's pretty much it. The exercise I already did, where I looked at the what do I sell? I looked at the NAICS codes, the PSC codes, and some of these other things. Well, when I go to SAM in a couple of days, or however long it takes, probably into early next week on getting the EIN back from the IRS. But when I go in there, it's going to ask me about the NAICS codes I want to have and all these others, and I can fill it all out at once. So anyways, that's where I'm at. I don't need to go too far into that. My point, though, is I'm going to show you in less than an hour, I will stand up a company, and it will be, legitimate T's crossed and I's dotted in there, but I don't have to do all the extra work. I can have somebody else do it for me. I will put links into the chat for any of these things I just mentioned. I might wait a little bit and come back. So if you don't see it today, you'll see it in tomorrow's thing, because probably tomorrow I'll do this activity and I'll be able to get Delaware Inc.com into the description, but also the company I use for the physical address. The phone number doesn't really matter because I'll just make that mine. By the way, don't get overly concerned about spam out there. I am a very visible person, and I don't really get that much spam. In my emails, I get a little bit more, but I get almost no phone calls coming in. No, like not a lot of spam. So they've done a good job of minimizing that. I'd rather not put friction between a potential buyer reaching me because I'm worried about whether somebody else has my cell phone. It's like, who cares? It's not that sensitive of information, and I want people to reach me. So here's my number. Okay, I think that's where I'm going to pause there. If you got any questions as you go along, let me know. I'm probably going to take a few days, and I'll keep coming back tomorrow and over the weekend doing stuff. If I have to wait for the business to form, I'll probably jump ahead and show you how I start thinking about some of my initial outreach. I expect to be able to start reaching out to people, if not next week, then the week after. So that means like within the first 30 days of even thinking about starting a company, I'll already be reaching out and having and trying to get early meetings. I call this outreach. And so I'll be trying to schedule a couple of meetings. What I'm really going to try to find out is, hey, I like these guys, and I'll show you how I picked that, but are you interested in potentially us working together? I'm looking forward to showing you that journey, because that can happen pretty fast, especially if you got clarity around what you do. It makes it easy for people to reject you or accept you. And in sales, you want to be rejected like 84 out of 100 times. That's just normal. Okay, I'm going to wrap up now. I'll post this video, and then I'll see you tomorrow.